The story continues with Mark training in various ways, fighting a giant cyclops, flying to the moon and back, and bench pressing like a beast. Thanks to all his training, it becomes clear that Mark might now be strong enough to defeat Anissa. However, it's also revealed that, for some reason, the Declaration of Independence is being stolen. So Mark and Rex head to the scene where they encounter two Wigs villains named Dropkick and Fightmaster. A battle ensues, during which they argue about how Mark should ask Samantha out since he's been avoiding her. Rex gets chewed out because Mark blames him for his sister Kate's death. Meanwhile, the Wig villains take the chance to escape. Mark gets so angry that he destroys multiple multi-paw clones with extreme flair until Kate suddenly appears, calming the situation. Still, Mark knocks out Multipaw and sends him to prison. Back home, Mark discovers that his brother Oliver has now developed powers. Meanwhile, the Guardians regroup and Kate explains that she needed time for herself. We learn that Immortal proposed to her, and that's not all because Rachel also arrives at the DoD base. Reports come in of over 300 unusual geological events across the country. The weird part? Draar Seismic is still in prison. At the same time, Cecil finds out that Oliver has awakened his powers. Cecil heads to the Grayson household to check on Oliver and talks to Debbie. The DoD wants to properly train Oliver, but Debbie refuses to hand her kid over. Meanwhile, back at the DoD, they note that intense geological events are happening nationwide, and to make things worse, the heroes have gone missing. And as if that wasn't bad enough, Seismic is no longer in prison. Cecil gets briefed on the situation. Mark tells his friends what future Samantha told him, so they advise him to ask her out. Mark goes to Samantha and tries to set up a date, but like an idiot, he brings up future Samantha and what she said. Samantha gets furious. Instantly, Cecil contacts them to explain what's happening. Suddenly, Darkwing and the Reanimen show up for a rescue mission. Everyone fights and defeats the monsters while Dark Queen captures Seismic. However, Mark gets angry when he finds out that Sinclair and Darkwing, who he considers evil, are free. He storms off to confront Cecil. Cecil explains that those kinds of people are rehabilitated through severe psychological intervention, but Mark still disagrees. Cecil then asks him. Mark doesn't see his point. Suddenly, they enter a white room, and Cecil tells Mark to leave before he does something he'll regret. Mark is so enraged that Cecil is afraid of him, and multiple Reanimen appear to protect him. Elsewhere in the universe, Alan and Nolan talk. The Viltrumite tells the jacked-up Alan that he should leave before they experiment on him to figure out why he's so strong. But Alan refuses to go without him. Alan undergoes laser surgery, but it doesn't even tickle him. Nolan is shocked he's still alive, and Alan realizes that Nolan is starting to care about him, meaning he'll soon join the Planetary Coalition's cause. We see a flashback of Cecil facing two villains who are trying to activate capsules to destroy the entire city. Even though Cecil can't stop them alone, reinforcements are outside. However, these two lunatics decide to activate the capsules knowing it will hurt them, so Cecil shoves them aside and holds the door shut, though he ends up shredded in the process. Later, the DoD grafts artificial skin onto him. Sometime after, the Lizard League attacks, but surprisingly, the villains defend Cecil and Radcliffe. Radcliffe tells Cecil that he trained these villains, but even though they save him, Cecil shoots them down because working with them goes against his ideals. Cecil is sent to prison, but from the moment he arrives, things start improving until Radcliffe shows up and tells Cecil he wants him to be the new director of the DoD, since Radcliffe will be moving to a new project. The thing is, if the big boss is offering this to Cecil, it means his time in prison was his rehabilitation. Radcliffe repeats that he fixes talented people, though Cecil refuses at first. Radcliffe then tells him, "We can be the good guys or the ones who save the world, but we can't be both." Back in the present, Mark confronts Cecil over his actions. He knows Cecil is good, but Invincible still fights the Reanimen and defeats them, only for another wave to appear. Mark is ready to wreck them, but Cecil uses a device to recreate the sound of the monster that traumatized Invincible, forcing Mark to flee in anger. He lands at the Guardians' base and tells them what happened, but Cecil uses the device again and the Reanimen attack. The Guardians fight them to protect Mark. Rex destroys the device, but Mark is still affected. And worse, the Reanimen are tearing him apart. Luckily, Rudy blocks the frequency and Mark unleashes his rage as the Guardians watch in shock. Cecil scolds Mark for helping his father, who is an enemy of humanity, but stubbornly refuses to let anyone else make mistakes. Mark grabs him, threatening to kill him if he ever goes near his family again, and demands Rudy remove whatever Cecil put in his head. Because of this, the Guardians split. Some support Cecil's extreme measures, while others feel they're just his pawns. Dark Queen joins the remaining Guardians. Meanwhile, Mark tells his family what happened. Oliver thinks Mark should have killed Cecil to avoid future problems, but both his brother and mother tell him that's not how things work. Mark and Samantha talk things over, and he apologizes for how he made her feel when he brought up future Samantha. Mark confesses that he's had feelings for her since they met, but circumstances kept them apart. Hearing this, Samantha says they should think things through carefully. Mark tells his friends everything, feeling guilty for not killing Sinclair. But they argue that would make him no better than Sinclair. Elsewhere, Debbie is seen dating her co-worker Paul, while Samantha heads to college at the DoD. Cecil is stressed over recent events and remembers his past, when nobody took him seriously because of his prison record. Then he sets informed of an unknown, incredibly powerful being on Earth, Omni-Man. Cecil meets the Viltrumite, who claims his government sent him to help Earth's people. Yeah, sure, Cecil thinks, but he tells his subordinates to let Omni-Man stay for now, though he orders a file opened on him. In the present, Donald asks his boss what will happen to Invincible. Cecil answers, "We can be the good guys or the ones who save the world, but we can't be both." Then he walks away. Later, Mark talks to Samantha again, telling her that when Cecil attacked him and he thought he'd die, the only thing on his mind was her, so he knows his feelings are real. The lovebirds officially become a couple. Ah, love. Later, we see two villains who previously fought Invincible. Life has been extremely harsh on them, and though they want to do better, they decide to rob a bank, but unluckily for them, they're stopped by Invincible and his brother. Mark gets mad at Oliver for using his powers without permission, but in the end, Mark tells their mother that he'll train Oliver to use his powers properly. Elsewhere, Samantha runs into Amber and they chat while Rex and his followers head to the Team's base. Here, Rex and Rachel show improved chemistry, and Samantha joins them, mentioning she'll be moving back in with her parents. In another location, a high-ranking villain named Lou confronts Titan because Multi-Paul, one of their best assassins, is in jail. Titan, who took over Machine Head's role in the Order, is held responsible, but he refuses Isotope, suggests complying to avoid trouble since the Order controls the world's underworld. Titan reluctantly agrees, making it clear this is the only favor he's doing for them. Mark and Oliver train until they meet with Art, who gives Oliver his super suit. Since Mark cut ties with Cecil, Art also gives him a brand new badass suit for a fresh start. Suddenly, two villains attack a prison, so Mark and Oliver rush to stop them. Mark scolds Oliver for not listening, nearly getting himself killed, forcing the kid to apologize. Meanwhile, Debbie and Paul go on another date, where she finally tells him the full truth about Nolan and his sons, wanting to be completely honest. At the same time, Samantha makes a deal with her parents. She won't use her powers inside the house, but she can use them to help people a fair compromise. When Mark gets home, he learns his mom confessed everything to Paul. Talking to Samantha, he vents about his exhausting responsibilities, and she advises him to lean on the people who care about him. Meanwhile, at a military base, the Mauler twins break in, and the Guardians confront them, but they're defeated by a weapon that disrupts the nervous system. Invincible arrives to help, but the weapon affects him too. The Maulers reveal that once they launch their missile, it'll destroy the planet's communication networks, forcing people to pay for their new system. Suddenly, Oliver appears, and the Maulers activate the missile. With no choice, Invincible tries to stop it while ordering Oliver to go home. But the kid ignores him and fights the Maulers instead. Mark destroys the missile, but at the same time, Oliver kills both Mauler twins. Cecil arrives to clean up the mess, but Mark takes it the wrong way and confronts him until he sees what Oliver did and drags him away. Samantha tells Mark he should be understanding. Oliver's just a kid. Later, Debbie apologizes for telling Paul the truth without consulting Mark, but he understands she needs someone too. Mark and Debbie sit Oliver down, teaching him that life is precious, and the boy promises not to act so recklessly again. As they hug, Mark senses someone watching them, and it turns out to be Angstrom Levy. Son of a bitch. You're still alive? Meanwhile, Rex and Rachel go shopping, but a villain causes chaos, forcing them to fight. Mark visits the team, asking Rudy to trace the spying device, but Rudy can only confirm it belongs to someone with massive resources. Mark storms into the DoD, accusing Cecil, but the boss insists the device isn't theirs. Mark leaves angrily. Alone, Cecil admits they do spy on the Graysons, but swears the device isn't theirs. Meanwhile, the wig-wearing villains Palookas approach Mark, claiming they're from the future and need his help to overthrow their king. Mark refuses, but they kidnap him anyway, convincing him by promising to return the stolen Declaration of Independence. At the same time, another Invincible steals our Mark's suit. The city is in chaos. The future timeline has spent years at war against their king, who initially ruled well but descended into madness, causing disasters and massacres. The wig villains explain they stole the Declaration because its ink contained poison, a failed assassination attempt. Mark and the Whigs stage a fake capture to infiltrate the king's lair, where Mark Mark is shocked to discover the tyrant is immortal. Immortal reveals that centuries have passed since Mark left Earth with his family. He berates Mark for abandoning the planet to a non-Viltrumite himself, calling Mark a cowardly emperor consumed by grief. Everyone he loved died while he lived on. Immortal begs Mark to kill him. Mark refuses until Immortal attacks him, then tries to murder one of the Whig villains. With no choice, Mark ends his friend's suffering retrieving his suit. Mark tells Samantha everything. She comforts him, and they share a romantic rooftop date, confessing their love before getting frisky under the stars.
Yeah, boy.
Meanwhile, in space, Nolan still refuses to escape with Alan. Viltrumite executioners arrive, prompting Nolan to bid Alan farewell, but Alan breaks out, frees prisoners, and recruits Battle Beast. Viltrumite fights, chaos erupts. Nolan declares no regrets betraying the Viltrumites, while Battle Beast complains they're killing mediocre foes. Discovering the execution chamber beneath them, they crash the party. Battle Beast fights a Viltrumite one-on-one. Alan is overpowered until Nolan saves him, admitting he couldn't watch his friend die. Alan reveals he took hits on purpose to motivate Nolan. With only 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left, Nolan agrees to join Alan. Back on Earth, Multipol multiplies grotesquely to break out of prison, but is stopped by his sister Kate, who warns he'll never be freed if he keeps this up. Both recall their father, who was crazier than a goat for having so many kids. Turns out, both were trained to make weapons until Paul escaped. In the present, Kate tells her brother she wanted to help him quit his criminal ways, but he says the order wouldn't allow it since, like the GDA, they don't let go of tools they find useful. Grayson family breakfast with Samantha, and here Debbie realizes Mark and Samantha were getting busy all night. Since Oliver's a snitch who rats out his brother, Mark tells his mom he and Samantha are moving out, so Debbie feels a bit sad. And Mark and Samantha discuss needing money to rent an apartment. Samantha goes to the prison to offer a service where Invincible will respond instantly if something happens. At night, Mark and Samantha look for Oliver, who ran off, but the kid's just playing like a normal kid until some thugs show up. Mark fears his brother will react badly, but Oliver only humiliates them, leaving them in their underwear. Elsewhere, Lou confronts Titan for not freeing Multipol from prison, giving him 24 hours and threatening him by mentioning his daughter. So Titan talks to Isotope, who says he shouldn't face Lou, he could die. Titan visits Machine Head, and the bot notices the higher-ups are busting Titan's chops, telling him he has two choices: free Multipol or wait for death. Later, Titan attacks the prison, meeting Invincible and asking him to come along. Mark sees Titan has changed. Titan explains what's going on with the order and asks Invincible to help free Multipol, but Mark refuses. Later, the guy visits Titan, and as time's up, Titan asks Isotope to teleport their enemies high up to fall, but Isotope betrays Titan, and Liu turns into a huge dragon that defeats Titan. Liu heads to the prison, so Mark and Samantha go there. Invincible fights Liu while Samantha holds back the prisoners, but Multipol escapes. Mark seems to defeat the dragon, but the jerk regenerates. Elsewhere, Machine Head goes to Titan's office, and Isotope teleports the big guy to fall. Machine Head shoots Liu just as he's about to wipe out Invincible, so Titan thanks him. It was all a plan. Later, Mark tells Samantha maybe it's best not to move out since he needs to help his mom with Oliver, so Debbie's thrilled. Meanwhile, Machine Head becomes the Order's new leader, but Titan says he's done working for them, and Machine Head agrees. Elsewhere, the big guy revived Lou. Flashing back, we meet Scott, who releases energy when hit, and his sister, Jessica, who has a daughter named Gretchen. Point is, they're the girls Invincible tried to save in Chicago but couldn't, leaving Scott devastated. In the present, Scott confronts a prosecutor for not acting against Invincible, but she says Invincible is good enough to defend the planet from alien threats. Scott's mad to hear this, and that's not all. It turns out this guy works for the GDA. Meanwhile, Oliver fights a roided-up elephant for training as Mark and Samantha watch, later talking about their dad. Oliver wonders if they'll ever forgive Omni-Man. Mark says it'll be tough, and Oliver reveals his Thraxan heritage, lets him remember his parents, showing he really misses his old man. Elsewhere, Scott implants stolen GDA discs that boost his energy, so his power ramps up big time. He wrecks the city to draw out Invincible for revenge. Meanwhile, William celebrates his birthday, and Amber shows up with her new boyfriend, Kyle. Amber and Mark talk, both happy things are going well. Suddenly, they see on the news that Powerplex is hunting Invincible, but Mark ignores it. Shapesmith faces Powerplex, hitting him so much that Powerplex charges up, unleashing a huge blast to defeat the Martian and take off. The guy worries the GDA must know what's happening. The next day, Mark and his family attend an event to honor Chicago's tragedy victims, but Powerplex crashes it to find Invincible. To avoid escalating, Samantha fights him until the Guardians arrive, and Powerplex is caught. But the nutcase hits himself to charge up and escapes, while Mark feels bad about Chicago, never having thought about the victims. Rudy makes a belt so Monster Girl won't de-age, and Amanda's thrilled. Rex and Rachel talk. Rachel wants to quit being a hero for a normal life and offers Rex the same, but he refuses, believing his true self is the hero Rex explode they know. Later, Donald gives Mark info on Scott, noting his sister and niece died in Chicago. To make things worse, Scott pretends he'll harm innocents, but Invincible doesn't show, unaware it's a lie. Invincible arrives and tries to reason with Scott, but the guy won't listen, so they fight. Powerplex unleashes a huge energy blast that tragically kills his wife and son. Invincible stops Powerplex, who vows to get out of prison and take revenge. Samantha tries to cheer Mark up while Angstrom keeps spying. Multiple Invincibles from different dimensions appear, and Angstrom says there'll be enough for his revenge. So the start of episode 7, we see that during the fight between Angstrom and Mark completely crushed him, leaving him close to death. But Angstrom opens a portal and escapes. On the other side of the portal, creatures called technicians repair him. After this, we get a time jump of a few months, followed by portals opening, revealing Mark's various multiversal variants who start wreaking havoc at different locations on Earth. And thus begins the Invincible War. Before the war kicks off, Angstrom instructs Mark's variants to cause as much destruction on Earth as possible, promising that once they succeed, they'll get whatever they want in their own universes. Meanwhile, Mark still hasn't recovered from the Powerplex incident, constantly thinking about it. Eve consoles him, saying it wasn't his fault. Just then, Eve gets a call that they need help, and she says Invincible will arrive soon. As soon as they hit Earth, Invincible's variants start causing chaos one after another at different spots. Other superheroes on Earth try to confront them, but none can stand up to even one. Meanwhile, Rex and Ray are spending quality time together, but suddenly blasts start happening there too. Rex tells Ray to stay put while he investigates the real cause behind the blasts. Rex heads out to find the truth, while an Invincible multiversal variant is causing havoc at Central Jail. Our Mark arrives there, and as soon as he sees his variants, he realizes it's his doppelganger from another Earth. Mark directly asks how he got to this Earth, but the multiversal Mark says he won't tell. Hearing this, our Mark attacks him, sparking an intense fight between them, but the multiversal Mark can't hold up against our Mark at all. Just then, Bolt and Kid Thor arrive, thinking the Mark in front of them is an evil Invincible, so they start attacking him. With the jail under attack, Powerplex escapes and watches the chaos from a distance. Then the evil Invincible stands before him. Powerplex unleashes his powers, attacking the evil Invincible, but the variant hits back with a massive counterattack. Somehow, Mark manages to convince the others, and together they defeat the evil Invincible. Meanwhile, on TV, Mark's mom and little brother, Oliver, are watching news about the attacks happening worldwide. Suddenly, Oliver decides to go help Mark defeat all the evil Marks. Sebby tries hard to stop him, but in the end, lets him go. The story then shifts to Sissel and Donald, who with the help of noisemakers have taken down an evil Invincible. Here, Sissel tells Donald they'll need more noisemakers, to which Donald replies that most of their engineers are dead. Sissel wants to use the noisemaker force to strike back soon, and Donald reveals that so far, 18 different Mark variants have arrived on this Earth. Next, we see Day 2 of the Invincible War. We see Oliver helping normal people escape the attack. Then he spots Invincible flying in the sky and decides to follow him. As he chases, the Invincible turns and looks at him, shocking Oliver it's an evil Invincible covered in blood. By now, a full day of attacks by the evil Invincibles has passed. Meanwhile, our Mark is patrolling the city with Eve, trying to figure out what's going on. Then Mark sees some superheroes fighting his evil variant in the city, so he decides to join them. As he dives in, he lands a powerful punch on his evil version. Then Mark and Eve team up, unleashing one strong move after another on the evil Invincible. The impact of this fight is truly worth watching, and this fight is just getting started. Another evil Invincible joins, one loyal to the Viltrum Empire, looking exactly like his dad. Both evil Marks start overpowering Invincible heavily. Mark wants Eve to leave, but she refuses. Then the Viltrumite Mark attacks Eve directly, breaking her leg. Now Mark faces a tough choice: fight both Invincibles or save Eve. Just then, a portal opens, and tons of noisemakers attack the evil Invincibles, giving Mark enough time to save Eve. After this, Cecil orders Donald to find Brett and end this. Meanwhile, fighting the evil Mark, half of the Guardians of the Globe team is wiped out. By the end of their battle, almost all superheroes are either dead or badly injured. Here, the evil Mark, overconfident, fails to dodge an attack from Darkwing, who takes him to the Shadowverse with him. On the other hand, with Amanda, Rex, and Robot facing another Mark, Rex is already severely injured. He tells Bulletproof to take Rudy and Amanda and get out, and we see an intense fight between Rex and the evil Invincible, where sadly the Invincible isn't even scratched. Rex uses his final move, sacrificing himself with his explosive skeleton, creating a massive explosion. The impact feels like the Invincible was killed in it. Rex's sacrifice is truly an emotional scene. Meanwhile, Mark is at the hospital with Eve when Cecil arrives, saying he shouldn't stay there. Mark replies that all the Invincibles know this location and could attack anytime. Mark faces a huge dilemma: stay with Eve or save the world. Cecil believes the world's only hope lies with Mark, and he should go face the Invincibles, but Mark isn't ready to leave the hospital. By the end of day 2, many superheroes, including Mark's brother Oliver, manage to defeat some evil Marks. Then day 3 begins, and by now the evil Invincibles have destroyed many cities worldwide, all monitored by Angstrom from afar. He tells the remaining Invincibles that Phase 1 is complete, and now they must meet at the designated location for Phase 2, none other than Mark's house. All the evil Invincibles arrive there along with Angstrom, who tells them they've not only ruined this planet, but also completely destroyed Mark. He then says they need to bring Mark to him so he can confront him personally. The Invincibles say enough is enough and demand to be sent back to their dimensions, threatening to kill Angstrom if he doesn't comply. They advance toward him, but Angstrom, sensing the danger, opens portals and sends all the Invincible variants to different dimensions. Meanwhile, Cecil informs Mark of Angstrom's location, and without delay, Mark heads there, immediately unleashing a barrage of attacks on Angstrom. Angstrom uses his bots to try sending Mark to another dimension through a portal. A fierce battle unfolds between Invincible and Angstrom, but in the end, Invincible defeats the bots and reaches Angstrom. Just as he's about to attack again, Oliver arrives. Oh no! Oliver urges Mark to kill Angstrom. Hearing his little brother distracts Mark, and Angstrom takes advantage, attacking Mark with one of his bots. This gives Angstrom enough time to open a portal and escape. Mark makes a last-ditch effort to pull Angstrom back through the portal, but it closes, severing Angstrom's arm. After escaping Invincible, Angstrom asks the technicians to fix his arm so he can reassemble the evil Invincibles and teach Mark a lesson, but the technicians refuse, and as Angstrom tries to open a portal to flee, they control a gadget in his brain, stopping him. They say they kept their promise, but his promise meant nothing. They add that he vowed no second chances if their deal failed. The technicians further state that from now on, Angstrom will work for them. If he agrees, they'll fix his arm. If not, they'll tear his body apart. After this, Invincible and his little brother fly over the city, witnessing the devastation. News reports that Chicago, London, Tokyo, Paris, even New Delhi are completely destroyed. Rescue operations have begun, and the death toll could rise further. We then see Invincible at the hospital by Eve's side when Cecil arrives, saying they need to form a new team and conduct research to counter future threats. Mark replies that after this is over, they won't work together. Saying this, Mark heads straight to New York, where relief and rescue efforts are underway. Seeing Mark, Powerplex gets furious. Powerplex attacks Invincible repeatedly, but Invincible knows Powerplex isn't in his right mind and is deeply shaken. With Oliver's help, Invincible manages to calm him down. Cecil then tells Britt to take Powerplex away. For a while after, Mark is troubled by Powerplex's words, blaming himself for all the destruction. And we see Immortal, being immortal, revive once again, and the Pentagon's restoration begins. Immortal and Duplicate decide to leave the Guardians of the Globe team. Moreover, Mark learns Rex is gone. Cecil tells Mark he should lead the Guardians, but Mark refuses and goes to help with rebuilding. While clearing debris, a Viltrumite named Conquest appears before him. Conquest says Mark was given a task by General Craig with a deadline, but he hasn't prepared this planet for the Viltrum Empire, making them think Mark's against them. That's why they sent Conquest to remind Mark of his duty. Hearing this, Mark says he's in a bad mood and wants to either break something or bust someone's head. Episode 8 kicks off with a bang. As Invincible and Conquest punches collide, they create a massive shockwave, killing hundreds of innocents nearby. From the start, Conquest dominates the fight. He tells Mark that if Anissa were here, here, she'd explain how to prepare this planet for Viltrum. Conquest is taunting Mark to fight against the Viltrum Empire for his own amusement, saying he wants Mark to put up a good fight. He adds that he didn't come to save this planet or show off Viltrum's power. He's here to have fun. Hearing this, Mark loses it and charges at Conquest, smashing through buildings to attack him. But Conquest doesn't even get a scratch. He grabs Mark's throat, saying he has no choice but to fight. Mark accepts the challenge and drags Conquest into space, where Conquest counters, bringing him back to Earth. Mark insists that as long as he's here, no Viltrumite can touch Earth. Meanwhile, Debbie watches the Conquest vs. Invincible fight on TV, visibly worried, and Oliver decides he's going to help Mark. After Oliver leaves, Paul comforts Debbie. Back in the fight, after being thrown down from space, Invincible is in rough shape. He notices the ground shaking violently, and as he looks up, Conquest slams into him at supersonic speed. You can gauge the impact from the fact that this collision obliterates the entire city like a nuclear explosion. Oliver is close by, but Invincible and Conquest are moving so fast he can't even get near them. Seeing the devastation, Mark begs Conquest to stop, but Conquest grabs his throat and slams him into the ground. Conquest says he's here to enjoy himself, and that's what he's doing. He urges Mark not to give up, saying he can beat him if he keeps fighting, that he still has a chance to fight for these people, if not for himself. Mark tries, but he can't break free from Conquest's grip. Just then, Oliver arrives and attacks Conquest. Once again, his entry is solid, but he probably thinks he's some mini superhero. As he charges at Conquest again, Conquest swats him like a mosquito. Seeing his brother in trouble, Mark unleashes a flurry of punches on Conquest in rage. At the Pentagon, Cecil tells his scientists they need to send noisemakers to fight Conquest soon. The scientists say trials will take 2 more weeks, but Cecil shuts down their excuses, ordering them to finish faster. Meanwhile, Eve regains consciousness in the hospital, and her parents tell her she's been out for a week. Seeing the Conquest news on TV, she insists on going to Mark. The Invincible vs. Conquest fight gets even more intense. Conquest tells Invincible he's just been toying with him so far, and now Mark will know real pain. He drags Mark through massive buildings, killing many people as they collapse. During this, he reveals he knew Nolan and thought he'd do great things for Viltrum. Conquest adds that before coming to Earth, Nolan was killed, and if he were alive, he'd tell him how brutally he beat his son. Just then, Oliver lands another punch on Conquest. Mark keeps telling Oliver to leave, but Oliver doesn't listen. Little brothers, right? Conquest plans to deal with Oliver first, then Invincible. He shoves Invincible aside and lands a brutal punch on Oliver, knocking out all his teeth in one go. I don't know why, but watching Oliver get beat up is oddly satisfying. Conquest crosses all limits, grabbing Oliver's head and legs, trying to tear him apart, saying his muscles will rip, his bones will shatter, and his body will split in two. Dude, are you insane? Mark pulls himself together and charges at Conquest to save his little brother. Cecil arrives, helps Oliver, and informs Debbie that Oliver is safe. Donald calls Cecil, saying Eve is awake and wants to see him soon. Eve claims she's the only one on Earth who can manipulate matter so she can face the Viltrumite. Meanwhile, Conquest grabs Mark's neck, dragging him through a beach, killing hundreds in the collision. This scene feels a lot like the train scene from Season 1. Eve arrives to help Mark, but as Mark tells her to leave, the Viltrumite breaks his arm. Evie creates a barrier around herself and lands a solid hit on Conquest, but at the right moment, Conquest grabs her, first shattering her armor, then breaking her jaw with a punch and driving his hand straight through her. Seeing this, Mark is furious. Conquest says this is how he's always wanted to fight, as he was never allowed to in missions. By now, Mark's rage mode is fully on. With one punch, he breaks Conquest's Viltrumite gauntlet, though his own arm is completely shattered. Both go full rage mode, clashing fiercely. We see Eve transforming into her prime form, meaning she's still alive and ready to take on Conquest. Conquest tells Mark everyone in the Viltrum Empire fears him, and why wouldn't they? He's the second most powerful Viltrumite. That's why Viltrum sends him to conquer planets. As he says this, Conquest moves to kill Mark, but luckily, Eve's transformation completes. She creates an atomic spear and unleashes a powerful atomic blast on Conquest, leaving him in bad shape for a few seconds. Conquest gets up to kill Eve, enraging Mark further. In a fury, Mark lands punch after punch, but Conquest blocks one and says he's still more powerful, breaking Mark's other arm. Despite this, Mark, in full rage, uses his head to repeatedly bash Conquest, crushing his skull until he's dead. It looks like Conquest is gone, though I'm not sure how Viltrumite biology works. Mark defeats Conquest and crawls to Eve, who's unconscious after achieving her prime form. After the fight, Cecil arrives with the Guardians of the Globe's superheroes. Mark is taken to the Pentagon hospital, where he wakes up 3 days later. Eve explains that when she pushes her limits, her powers go beyond, turning her into a different being. She says it happened once before and wanted to tell Mark, but never got the chance. At the Pentagon, Pentagon, Cecil's scientists tell him repairing the bodies will take time, so they're developing new tools. They say it can't be rushed, but Cecil warns that Viltrumites are out there. Only one came this time, but when they learn he's dead, they'll come in full force. The scientist promises to speed up. In the hospital, Mark's mom visits, blaming herself for everything, saying she could have raised Mark without powers if she hadn't supported Nolan. Cecil arrives, and as he tries to thank Mark demands to know where Conquest is. Cecil says he's dead, but Mark asks where his body is and orders it burned after seeing it. All the superheroes and Guardians attend Rex's funeral, where Robot and Eve give emotional messages. Eve regrets not spending time with Rex, as he's gone before she could know him better. After leaving, Eve goes to Mark's bedroom, uses her powers to remove his clothes, and they get intimate. We then see an underground sewer scene where a man uses octopus-like creatures to control people. In space, we see Battle Beast, frozen solid, surrounded by a Viltrumite's body parts. Aliens take him into their ship, and as the temperature normalizes, he regains consciousness. Next, we see the technicians who've repaired Angstrom's arm. Angstrom asks what they want, and they say their greed destroyed their planet. Angstrom thinks they're looking for a new home and opens a portal, but they say this is just the start. They have much to achieve together. Then we see Cecil and Donald. Donald says he knows Cecil doesn't care about his opinion, but asks if this is really right. Surprise, surprise, Cecil didn't burn Conquest's body, but hid it 6 miles underground in 400 tons of steel alloy. Cecil tells Donald that if it moves, a massive explosion will go off. His plan is to extract vital Viltrum Empire info from Conquest to stop them. At the Pentagon hospital, Oliver is thrilled about being discharged, telling Mark they'll help rebuild the city. Mark says Oliver was right about Mauler and Angstrom. Many died because of them. He adds that Angstrom even tried to kill Mom and Oliver once. In this moment, Mark vows that anyone who even looks at his family or friends with bad intentions won't live. But this dialogue, Invincible Season 3, ends here. So guys, let us know in the comments how you liked Season 3 of Invincible. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to our channel, Super Comics, and like this video. I'll keep bringing more videos like this, so if you don't want to miss them, subscribe and hit that bell icon to get notifications for every video.